This is a talk about the integrity of the firm and how a firm can lose its integrity and disintegrate if it does not take care to maintain the proper balance between its knowledge, its networks, and its routines. In our last talk, we looked at how networks are connected to routines, which are connected to knowledge, which are connected to networks, to define the spirit or genius of a firm, that which makes it unique in terms of being both singular and special. And we looked at Apple as an example. We posited that in the beginning, at least, the knowledge on which Apple was built was closely associated with the personal genius of Steve Wozniak, while the networks were the genius of Steve Jobs. Let's now look at the very instructive history of Apple as a company, beginning when it first established itself as a firm with an identity through the original Apple logo adopted in 1997 and associated with the Apple II, the company's first large-scale production computer. A note on histories: companies, like people, are complex, and their story, viewed as history, is always subject to interpretation and revision. Facts, after all, are very messy things. I do not purport to be an expert on the story of Apple, so I may not have my facts quite right, but I think it's right enough to illustrate the point we're making here. In just 3 short years, the two Steves had driven their company to the status of a cultural icon, with a most successful initial public offering in 1980. By 1983, the two Steves had built Apple into the fastest growing company in the modern U.S. economic history, and they felt the need to institutionalize their success. So they brought in a high-profile expert in running large-scale routines, John Sculley, formerly CEO of Pepsi. Things did not work out as planned, and within 2 years, in 1985, Steve Wozniak left Apple, breaking in very important ways the link between the knowledge and the networks that define the firm, and also breaking important links between knowledge and routines. That imposed strains on the connections remaining between networks and routines, prompting the other Steve to also leave the company. Breaking the link between networks and routines and leaving the company leadership grounded only in operating efficient routines for production, distribution, and scale, but disconnected from its market or networks and its product or knowledge. There followed from this a long period of time where the master of routines tried to make Apple into the image and likeness of its nearest competitor, Microsoft and IBM, combining its product brand into the PowerPC label. There were disastrous results. But then Steve Jobs returned, reestablished his control over the vision of the firm and its network of connections to the economy, reestablished the balance between networks and knowledge, although this time not with Steve Wozniak, but with another genius of the visual experience, Thomas Ive, also restoring the balance between networks and routines, and between knowledge and routines, successfully rebalancing knowledge, networks, and routines in a new Apple, as evidenced by a new logo that has since then consistently amazed us with a string of products that deliver increasingly rich audiovisual experiences of digital media on the desktop and in the cloud. In 1985, the launch of the World Wide Web opened up vast new opportunities for the rich visual experience of digital media, which gave new scope to the genius of Apple under the leadership of Steve Jobs. An important side note. So the story of Apple illustrates the importance of maintaining balance between the knowledge, the networks, and the routines that together make up the genius of the firm. Next, we will talk about integrity and the importance of limits, respecting them while always working to redefine them.